Hey guys, welcome to a new movie review. Today I'm going to be telling you about the independent film by director Gia Coppola, who is the granddaughter of the famous Francis Ford Coppola, who's done, Apocalypse Now, The Godfather, The Conversation. He's done some big ones. His daughter, Sofia Coppola, is also a director. Roman Coppola has done a lot of stuff. Pretty much the whole Coppola family has done a lot of. They've been a part of a lot of films over the course of the years. Not all of them are directors. Some of them act. Some of them write. Some of them make music for films. But regardless, a lot of them are a part of the film industry in some way. And so Gia Coppola, who like I was saying a second ago, who's the granddaughter of Francis Ford Coppola, this is her directorial debut. And this film also premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival, I believe, in 2013. So I think the success of the premiere there is what ultimately gave this film a limited release. But in Palo, Alto, you guys, basically it's a film where James Franco wrote all the stories for this film. I think it's based off of a novel or a collection of short stories he did about, the current state of high school life, what kind of um, social classes there are for all these kids who are in high school. We have the kids who are don't fit in well with school. We have kids that misbehave and have to do community service for their actions, and um, kids who are very sexually active and they kind of are nonstop when it comes to that kind of stuff. So this film kind of covers a lot of that kind of stuff and a lot of without me going to go into too much detail, a lot of like secret behind the scenes stuff that not a lot of people really bring up about high school life. Kids having these affairs with older people. It's at these occasional points in time. Kind of the just how bad drugs really are for you, kind of why it's so heavy-handed and so um, why the school district is really trying to really convince these kids not to do all these drugs and things like that, because the film kind of shows this after shock in a way of just how bad drugs can make you really alter your thinking process and things like that. um, so throughout the course of the film, without me going into too much spoiler detail, I'm going to try to keep this as spoiler free as I can. And also just because there's a ton of storylines covered in this. Like I said, this is based off of a collection of short stories that James Franco wrote quite a few years ago. One of them deals with Emma Roberts, who's a student who feels out of place with the school. Doesn't really have a lot of friends, isn't very social, kind of doesn't fit in with all these parties that go on that she attends for students at the school, and she kind of not really has a crush, but she's attracted to her soccer coach, or who she sees at her soccer practices, and the soccer coach is attracted to her, and so it kind of shows kind of how dangerous and unsafe it is for someone her age to be seeing a man much older than she is. So the film kind of plays off of that, kind of how she's uncomfortable with it, but feels like he's the only person that understands her and things like that. There's another story with a girl who's experienced sex for the first time, and after she experienced it, she just can't stop. She can't commit to these guys. She she's still kind of understanding what love is. But she likes the sexual part of it so much that even though she's not really committing to any man, as long as she's getting it from somebody she's attracted to, she seems okay with it. And this is kind of about her, really coming to sense of what she wants and all that kind of stuff. So there's a story about that. There's another story that I was kind of briefly talking about earlier in the video where a kid who is involved with the drug scene a lot, hangs around a lot of people who do drugs and a lot of illegal activities. It kind of shows his consequence for driving while high from the drugs, and kind of how he needs to do community service and all these other things that are mandatory from the courtroom, or else he'll go to a juvenile delinquent hall of some kind to make up whatever community service hours he should have done and things like that. So it shows the consequences of drugs and things like that. So, like I said, this film covers a ton of stuff. There's actually even more stories that are in this film that I didn't even cover here in the synopsis. But that's just a brief little detail of just how much this film covers, just under 2 hours. So for the positives and negatives of this film, I do think Emma Roberts and James Franco really give great performances here. James Franco's really creepy as, like I said, the soccer coach who is trying to move in on all these really young high school girls that he should really not be a part of in any sense of the word for relationships. And Emma Roberts is very good and very believable as this girl who really doesn't fit in with anybody in the school, doesn't really know where she stands, what she's going to do after high school, doesn't know where she stands as far as what she's looking for in a guy and things like that. But like I said, both of them give great performances. So if you like Emma Roberts or James Franco, you should be pretty happy with this because both of their performances in this were very good. This film also has a good variety of certain people's lives in high school. It really does cover a lot of different ground of people who are part of the partying scene, people who don't feel like they fit in. Um, just kind of all these different social classes in high school. I think for the most part, the film has a good variety of covering different aspects of different kind of lives that seem to happen a lot in high schools, specifically in the current state of high schools. Talia Shire gives a guest performance, gives a guest appearance, I should say, in the film. Talia Shire, for those who don't know who she is, she played Adrian in the Rocky films. She's been in the Godfather films, so right there, she's already connected with the Coppolas. She's the sister of Francis Ford Coppola and the aunt of Nicolas Cage, who are both Coppolas. So it's quite understandable, for her to attend once again another Coppola family related movie. So it was great seeing her giving a guest performance in the movie because I really haven't seen her in a film in a really long time. She wasn't in the last Rocky film in 2006, but it was great that she made a guest appearance in here. Great to see her still acting, and once again acting in a Coppola family related movie. One thing I've noticed about Gia Coppola's style, and I hope she kind of maintains this if she does direct more movies here in the future, I like her music mix that she does in certain scenes where she takes two or three, possibly even four different songs, mixes them together, kind of like what a DJ would at a party and things like that. Because it's fitting for the movie because of all the parties that happen and all these scenes and things like that. But I just liked that music mix feeling that she had in several scenes in the movie. Like I said, I really hope she keeps that in other films. She might have just done that just for the theme of this movie with, all these parties that go on and things like that. But that music mixing technique that she used in this film, like I said, I really hope that continues in other films because I really liked how it was emphasized in this film quite a bit. And also Jack Kilmer, who's Val Kilmer's son. He This is his acting debut, and he really gave a really good, surprising performance here. He's definitely a younger version of his dad, that's for sure. Val Kilmer also had an appearance in this film. He had a pretty minor role. Jack Kilmer had a much bigger role than his own dad did. But yeah, he gave a very surprising, very good performance, and like I said, he very much resembles his dad during his early years. So hopefully, we'll see him in more films in the future. For the negatives of this film, there really is no closure to these stories. You really don't get to see the end result. You don't really get to see a good wrap up of any of these stories. That's one huge downside is though there's all these things that happen, none of them really have closure. I don't know whether to say they had too many stories they took on, or they just didn't know how to wrap it up, or Gia Coppola didn't want to make her film too long. I don't know what happened, but I really think some form of closure should have happened to these stories because they really wasn't a good ending to any of these stories that were covered in the movie. There was also some occasional bad high school teens stereotyping, though I understand, James Franco probably wrote these characters based off of people he saw and knew when he was in high school, and I'm sure Gia Coppola did the same as a director of the movie. But there really was some bad stereotyping, just like, complete guesses as to what's going on behind the scenes in high school. Just a lot of, teens always partying, teens never doing homework and things like that. Just a lot of like ignorant, naive views of high school teenagers. It almost felt like, James Franco was just guessing of what other students were doing while he was doing whatever he was doing in high school. So the stereotyping I thought wasn't very good. I really wanted to see some more believable, more three dimensional characters rather than just the partiers, the drinkers, the smokers, the drug users, and the people who want to have sex all the time. So, um, Yeah, just some bad stereotyping that I wasn't very happy about. There was also very little Coppola family esque filmmaking here. And what I mean by that is, Sofia Coppola has her own way of directing movies. So does Francis Ford Coppola, and even Roman Coppola whenever he directs a movie. But one thing, like I said, besides the Gia Coppola music mixing that went on throughout the movie, there really wasn't a lot of things she did with her film that really make her stand out as a director. Besides the music mixing thing, I don't really know what else would cross over into her later films, or if she's in the process of making a style for her films, or I don't know what's going on there. But unlike other Coppolas in the family, it seems like she's the most generic of all of them. But like I said, she might completely dismiss that in later films that she might direct. So, but for the time of being, I really didn't see a lot of Coppola related stuff here as far as directing goes. So who knows? Maybe in later films she'll develop more of a style and be able to stand there with Sophia and Roman and Francis as far as making her own style goes. I also don't like how the film had more party scenes than actual storyline. The party stuff really got annoying really quickly. It really detracted and really didn't give us much storyline, I don't think. Um, so I would have preferred less parties and more character development and more storyline for these characters. I also felt the trailer of the film gave away too much. So if you really want to be surprised by the film, maybe avoid the trailer, maybe see it once just to get you to know, what you're getting into for the movie. But I really do think there's a lot of things the trailer showed and gave away that I really didn't want to know before going into the movie. So if you want to be surprised with Palo Alto, don't watch the trailer. Just go into it knowing what it's about and try to avoid the trailer if you can. But overall, I give Palo Alto a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's an okay film. I think it does what it needs to do pretty well for the most part. But like I said, there really was no closure to anything. I would have preferred less parties and more storyline scenes in here. Not as much stereotyping. I really would prefer, more three-dimensional, more believable characters. I hope Gia Coppola establishes her style more. And once again, the trailer I thought gave away too much for this movie, so that's another downer. Like I said, it's an okay film, 7.5 out of 10 for me. I really don't think it's a must see of any kind. I really do think that if you just want to see another Coppola directing another film, it might be a good like rainy day rental. But like I said, it's not an emergent have to see kind of film. So don't feel awful if if your hometown got it for a week and you didn't manage to see it. Like I said, this really could wait for Redbox. Like I said, it's not an urgent film by any stretch of the imagination. It's an okay film, not a bad one. So, like I said, it's a great rainy day rental. If you want to see another Coppola direct their own kind of film, be my guest and see it. But at the same time, don't feel awful if you don't see it. It's not going to be an instant classic, I don't think. So, 7.5 out of 10 for me. Palo Alto was an okay film.